Hello everyone, welcome to Bouchaine Bistro, created to showcase the great talents of our estate chef Martin and beautiful wines from Bouchaine Vineyards. My name is Marija, I'm estate sommelier, but more important, I have a great passion for wine and food from all over the world. And it's been a while since our last bistro. Meanwhile, we were traveling to different places, exploring local cuisine and wines. And chef, what are we cooking today?
Oh, we're not cooking a lot of stuff. We're going to be exploring our trips. This, which we've been snacking on all morning, it's called biltong. It's from South Africa.
Great.
One of the places where I went over the vacation. That was nice.
Sure, absolutely.
Biltong is air-dried beef, any type of meat. They sell it all over South Africa, and the stuff is totally addicting. So anyway, I'm going to cue Rob to go put on the slideshow. I'm going to tell you where we were. So the theme is, what do we do on our summer vacation? Oh, where'd you go, Marija?
So I went to Serbia, to Belgrade, where I'm from, and then I spent 12 days on a Crete island, the biggest Greek island, and very interesting, very diverse, and we can talk about that later. But how about you?
Oh, we went to actually 4 different countries. We were in basically South Africa and then Croatia. But as a part of being in South Africa, we spent a few days in Zimbabwe, of all places. And we spent an overnight in Bosnia, actually very close to where you are.
Yeah.
And the next country up from Bosnia is Serbia, if I'm not mistaken.
Sounds like your trip is quite adventurous, starting in South Africa and finishing in Europe.
Yeah, well, it was long, let's put it that way. So, first slide over here, I'm going to talk a little bit about where we went. Here are a couple of slides of Cape Town and the Cape of Good Hope. To be honest with you, it's one of those places I never thought I would ever see in my life. Cape Town is one of the most beautiful cities I've ever seen in the entire world. It's sort of built up along the side of this thing called Table Mountain, which is basically a 3,000-foot mountain that's sort of like flat on top. It's not really flat when you go up there. But the city of South Africa is built up and around this particular mountain, as well as what they call the 12 Apostles, which are the extension of that mountain going down to the Cape of Good Hope. And on the right there, you see the Cape of Good Hope, where Jessica and I, we proposed the most southwest corner of South Africa and the African continent. In fact, behind us, the only landmass back there is Antarctica. So it's interesting. Next slide, please. We went to a place called Stellenbosch, which I thought was one of the most beautiful wineries that we did.
And what grapes do they grow there?
Pretty much the standard international grapes. I mean, they do something called Pinotage, which to me is an acquired taste.
Very specific, very particular.
Very particular. I believe it's Cinsault and Pinot Noir. The South Africans drink it a lot. They actually grow a lot of Chenin Blanc, or Steen as they call it. They do Cabernet Sauvignon, Pinot Noir, Chardonnay. They grow all the standard international grapes. Wine grapes are not indigenous to South Africa. So everything was brought over there in 1650. So they do have a long history of grape growing in South Africa. So the other side there is a neighborhood called Bocap. We'll get back to it later. Settled by the Cape Malays. South Africa is an amalgam of about 14 different ethnic groups that all migrated into the same area, whether they were forced or came down voluntarily. Long story. The Cape Malay people were originally brought to South Africa as slaves by the Dutch. Dutch were not so great. These were great people. Next slide. A couple of different foods. We talked about traditional African. On the right, samosas is something like an African falafel. We made those at cooking lessons in the Bocap section, Cape Malay style. And on the right is something called bunny chow. No, we're not eating any bunnies. It's basically, it was a dish that was created for the working Indians. The largest Indian population outside of India is actually in South Africa. Durban is a city in South Africa. It's actually the largest Indian city outside of India.
You have to notice, Marty, you're just drinking water on this picture, but I'm sure that was not often the case. What was your favorite wine to pair with the local food?
Depends on what the local food was.
Okay.
With bunny chow, I would actually go with a Riesling. It's actually a loaf of bread that's hollowed out with a curry put in the middle of it. It's really quite good. We ate this at a food court in the central business district that was all Asian food. So with food, the diversity of food in South Africa is just amazing. Next slide. Of course, we've gone on safari. We're in Africa. A couple of different animals we saw. We saw elephants, giraffes. Next slide. Ate some good food at the Bama, which is an outdoor eating area. On the left there is an impala done on the spit. I don't know what she was cooking on the right, but they have various different stations of cooked food. Next slide. Smoke that thunders, Victoria Falls. I wish I could transport you the sound of Victoria Falls.
It looks spectacular.
It is spectacular. It is the largest waterfall in the world, and you can't even see all of it because the mist is so intense. You only go maybe a quarter or a third of the way down the viewpoint path because it just becomes impassable. On the right there, I found out that elephants can swim. Those are viewed from our hotel that we stayed at in the middle of the Zambezi River. Next slide. Then we went to the Balkans. You know,
Changing the continent now.
Changing to a different place. We were in Dubrovnik, and then we made something called Peka, which is under the dome. We're going to make a version of that. We made a version of that today to try with you.
Yeah. Our kitchen already smells amazing.
Yeah, you can smell it in the kitchen right now. Next slide, please. The Peljesac Peninsula, which is Croatia's winelands. Unlike any wine land you have ever seen, including South Africa, there is absolutely no tourist infrastructure in this area. The vines are wild and woolly, and it makes sense because the vines, at least in this particular area, are Plavik Mali. Plavik Mali is one of the forerunners of Zinfandel.
Exactly. So Plavik Mali, which means little blue, has really small blue berries. And actually, what is the relation with Zinfandel? So Zinfandel from California and Primitivo from Puja, from south of Italy, are different clones of the same Croatian grape called Crljenak Kaštelanski. But then Plavec Mali, it's a cross between Crljenak and another local variety called Dobričić. So when you tasted the Plavec, can you relate with Zinfandel, even they're growing completely different terroir?
Yeah, you can tell. It's got that jamminess and fruitiness. And also, the big difference is most of the Plavec Mali we tasted, at least from Dinjak and Pošap, two wine-growing regions on the Peljesac Peninsula, they are much more aged than Zinfandel. Zinfandel is not a grape that, all grapes age, we know that. It's not one that you want to drink aged. These were all, 9, 10 years old when we were drinking them, so they are big wines. On the right, there's an area called Tarpania, which is a city, a little village on the peninsula. We actually took a ferry from there. That's why we ended up there. Turned out to be kind of an interesting place. We were about the only Americans in the entire place. You don't find many places like that in the world.
That is anymore. A good place to explore some really local food.
Local food, seafood mostly, as you can see by the sea. That's a view of the town from the ferry looking back at the hotel. Kind of an interesting note on that hotel there. It was built as a hotel and resort for the apparatchiks of the Yugoslav nation back in the 60s. It was really kind of a time warp staying there. Next slide, please. We went to Mostar, Bosnia. We felt like we left Europe when we went there. On the right is a very famous bridge. They call it the Old Bridge, Stali Grad, I think is what they call it. It was actually destroyed by during the Yugoslavian wars back in the early 90s. It was basically flattened. They rebuilt it in the early 2000s. They actually found the original blueprints in Turkey, of all places. Makes sense, being it was a gift originally from the Turkish Sultan. And on the right, they have the National Plate, which is a restaurant. It's a bunch of different typical Bosnian foods. Next slide, please. And we went to Split, which is Diocletian's retirement village. Diocletian, a Roman emperor from the 1st century AD, retired to his homeland of Split. On the right, you see a bunch of cafes. Well, that is actually the facade from the palace. The palace was abandoned, and halfway through the 1st century, people moved in to make use and reuse the area, and the building materials, and they created the city in the old palace. On the right's a farmer's market. I happen to really love farmer's markets. This one was a really good one. Next slide, please. And so we're going to eat split style. On the right, we have a little local seafood pasta, which had just about everything that crawled out of the Adriatic in there. And on the right was a menu from a Kanobo that where we had dinner one night. Basically, that's the catch of the day, all 9 of the fish that were available.
Always fresh fish and a lot of choices.
And that was our choice for dinner. We actually ended up getting an assortment platter of a lot of different fish shared for 2. Next slide, please. And my favorite section, actually, of Croatia was Istria, which is a peninsula in the northwest part of the country.
And I have to agree with you. It's definitely my favorite part, beside the islands.
And on the left is Rovine, which very Venetian feel, being was part of Venice and part of Italy up to 1946. And on the right is Montalban, and if you close your eyes, you think you're in Italy when you see that.
And it's also known as a truffle town, so it's a great time, a perfect time to be there. It's summer, during the summer truffle season, because truffles are everywhere. I'm sure one of your pictures will tell us that.
Next page, please. As we say,
yes.
Anyone for truffles?
Enough truffles, so when you're there, they really shade them over everything. You can even find a grappa with a piece of truffle in it, pasta, a lot of products. So.
We had with pasta, we had on bruschetta, on the right was wild mushrooms and truffles, and then it was carpaccio on the left. Both were absolutely delicious. Next slide, please. Finally, we ended up in Zagreb, the capital of Croatia, and on the right's a pasta stuffed with cheese that was then baked in cream. It was really good. Next slide. Now it's on to Greece, and it's your turn.
Okay, this is Acropole, which is in Athens. I didn't go this time, but Marty thought that would be the good symbol for Greece overall. So then we can actually going to Belgrade now, which is a typical building in a downtown in a Baroque style. On the right, it's a view actually from the Kalemegdan fortress. The fortress was originally built in the 2nd century and then different parts were built later. It's a really huge fortress, a beautiful place with a lot of cafes, restaurants. It looks like a giant park and overlooking 2 rivers, Danube and Sava. And that little island in the middle, it's actually in the middle of a Danube. Danube is a really wide and big river that goes through many countries. So when in Belgrade, the place to visit, yeah, it's a must for sure. This is another part of Belgrade I really enjoy, the view from Gardos Tower. It's another old part of Belgrade called Zemun, a lot of narrow streets, great cafes, restaurants, and again, overlooking the Danube from other parts of the town. Tarpos winery, that's on the previous slide. So Serbia has a very long and well-developed wine culture and history, but that even increased within, let's say, last 10, 15 years. So a lot of new wineries, they actually are more kind of agro-tourism concept with a place where you can stay. They have great restaurants, hiking trails, the wineries. So it's a perfect getaway to spend a few days and enjoy the area. Yeah, so this is one of the restaurants within the winery. Looking in the mountains, it's located in the heart of Serbia. You can also be located there and explore other wineries in the region. Serbia, definitely not a really ideal country if you are a vegan, because it's a very full meat-oriented. You will have meat every day, all day, and different versions, a lot of roasted meat, really tasty. But unlike Spain, that it's also another meat-focused country, we do have delicious salads as well. So grapes pickled with hot peppers, it's one of my favorite. Well, I don't know, snacks, side dishes, but it's really delicious, a little spicy. And
the plate in the back there, that looks like what they called in Croatia a Dalmatian platter.
And we call it Serbian platter.
It's ubiquitous, it's all over the place.
Yes, there's a lot of kind of local prosciutto. We do have a lot of cheeses, and that will move us to the next slide. and cure meats. They are kind of very attached to a different origin. Like this Mirochki cheese, it comes from the Miroch mountain, and it's usually grilled. It has like nice crispy skin from outside, creamy texture inside, but it has to come only from that particular place. Pljeskavica and cevapi is something that it's our kind of fast food. It's 3 kinds of ground meat marinated with different herbs, and can be served in many different variations. But it's something
Serbian hamburger.
Kind of, yeah. So if you're there, you have to try it at least once. And the desserts, definitely your country use a lot of filo for savory and sweet pie. So this is the baklava in the middle, and on the side we have this dry walnut cookies are great to pair with the coffee that you'll be drinking in Serbia all day long. That will be the next slide.
Is there a difference between Serbian coffee and Turkish coffee?
So we call it domestic coffee. And it's actually Turkish coffee. When I was in Greece, they also have domestic coffee, which is Greek coffee, but it's all basically very similar in a way how to make it. It's a very strong coffee, and 10 a.m. or 10 p.m. it's a great, it's always a good time for a coffee and to meet your friend. And there are thousands of cafes, in Serbia. They're always full. And you always meet people for coffee. It's a kind of part of social life there. So this is traditionally on the picture on the left how it's served.
On the right's a photo of Zagreb Airport, which really got me. They have a sidewalk cafe as you enter the airport. Never seen that anywhere in the world. The coffee culture, the cafe culture. I guess it's
in the Balkans.
In the Balkans,
it's very strong. So.
I mean, we found it both Croatia and Bosnia. And I'm sure Serbia and Greece
maybe that explains why you see people in Belgrade all day long and late in the evening drinking this strong coffee. It keeps you going, and not sleeping much. So, okay, this is some of the vineyards in Serbia. What I enjoy in Serbia, and also wherever I travel, I'm always excited to try the local varieties. So I chose 2 here, Prokupec, which is red variety, and Tamjanika. Tamjan means actually frankincense. It's a white wine that has a pronounced smell of frankincense, very aromatic. There's some other local varieties like Morava and Začina, but I will stay with Prokupec and Tamjanika. Usually my luggage when I come back from Serbia, it's full of these bottles. And now, going to Crete. Crete, it's a very unique place. It's the biggest Greek island. A little different than what you expect from the Greek islands. It's kind of its own country within the country. It has a very strong Venetian influence, which you can see here. This is a town called Hanja where we stayed. It's a very charming, a lot of waterfront restaurants, a lot of history. Also very strong Ottoman Empire influence as well. Crete, great, and we can move to the next slide. Besides great Venetian architecture, has a lot of these narrow streets with a very charming cafes and restaurants, excellent local food, always starting with the Greek salad, here with the great views, local beer and wine. Really simple but amazing. Beaches are actually great. They're very spacious.
Sandy or pebbly?
They're very sandy beaches, which is something unusual for Europe, right? The long white powder sand. This beach, Gardos, it's covered actually with juniper trees that provide great shade, blue crystal waters, white sand, very warm. Something that kind of made me reconsider Hawaii as a place with the best beaches, and I wouldn't think I would say that. But and then Pink Sand Beach is actually Elaponisi. It's a very shallow, warm, and sand it's really pink because of some little shrimp that live there. The intensity changes during the year, but it's always pink. So it's something really unique to visit. Greek salad, of course, and what is really specific about Greek salad in Crete compared to others is that they have 500 herbs on a Crete island they use for the food, for the pies, and for the salad. So these herbs are always sprinkled on top of the delicious feta cheese. A lot of all vegetables taste amazing there. Nothing is ever sprayed on the island, and they have 30 million olive trees. So more olive trees in Crete Island than whole mainland and other islands together. So pretty spectacular. And of course, always a chance to have some truffles, and they were actually pretty tasty with some pasta and pair with a local variety called Liatico. It's a light red wine, so it was really went well nicely with the local truffles as well. Manosakis winery, the wine tastings there always include food as well, like a Greek salad, a dolmash, pie stuff with this local greens. And we're really focused on tasting the varieties. They're grown not just in Greece, but only actually in Crete, like Viliano, Viviana for the whites, Daphne, Plito. So something really unique. Of course, seafood, amazing. This was a really huge calamari. Wine was more than enough, stuffed with some local cheese and peppers.
You wouldn't want to meet that calamari in the ocean, would you?
No, only on the plate. And the Little Rakis, the winery that exists since 1960s. Everything is, we did a tour through the vineyard. Everything is dry farmed and biodynamically as well. And they revived some local varieties. They actually are grown just by this one winery only in Crete Island. How unique is that? The grape variety is called Plito. Really nice, light mineral, crisp white. They have also Daphne. They also grow some local Iatico. So really great educational and enjoyable visit. And of course also pair with some delicious food as well. And the wineries and vineyards there are in the mountains. So really driving through has some spectacular views as well. And you have Bienvenuti here from Malaysia.
Malaysia, which is Malvesa. What makes it really unique is that they barrel age it, which you don't see too frequently. It makes a really rich, lush, full-bodied wine. And on the other side, some Greek.
We have a Plito that they just mentioned, as I said, revived by Little Rakis winery. So, and these wines really go so well with the local food, with the salads and grilled fish. And Saganaki that we'll have later here too.
We're making Saganaki. South Africa, we have Reineke Winery, which was kind of interesting. Won't go into all the details. We ended up with the owner of the winery showing us around and poured us his entire portfolio, I might add. He has 3 different lines of wines, from the supermarket version.
That's a special treat there.
Oh yeah, it was quite on the right. It was Brut Costanza. Which is the oldest winery in South Africa, established in 1650. Originally, it was established to provide great wine for the ships traveling from Europe to the west, to the East Indies, which the Dutch controlled at that time. South Africa has a long and interesting history. Would not exactly call it glorious, to be quite honest with you. Next slide. Now it's time
to cook and recreate some of the dishes we enjoyed during our summer travels. So we are making today Saganaki from Greece and
lamb Peka from Croatia. So I've been working on the lamb Peka all morning. So let me get the plate over there that you got for the big bowl. I'm gonna get some gloves.
So, and what did you put in the dish?
It's a really, really easy dish to make. I was like shocked at how easy it was. It is, excuse me while I glove up for this. It is basically vegetables. Here we used eggplant, zucchini, carrot, onion. I think that's everything. Make a layer of that, then a layer of lamb. You can use beef, veal, whatever you want to put on there. We use some a marinade on top of that, which was olive oil, garlic, and tomato. Then it's cooked for 2 hours.
2 hours.
Some herbs. I put thyme, sage, and rosemary on top of it. It's cooked for actually an hour and a half. You pull the herbs off, open it up to finish it, and you end up with a really seriously baked dish.
And did you have that dish more in an inland area or coastal?
Well, I actually had it mostly, I had it in Dubrovnik. It's pretty coastal. We had the opportunity of a tour of Mount Serb, which is a fortress on top of, thank you. How'd you know I needed that? You read my mind.
Yes, you did.
So, and it's no, you don't want to touch that, that's hot. And you end up with oh man, this really smells good.
Smells amazing. And a white wine.
White wine, yes, I forgot about
Cook
that.
actually the lamb or any of these dishes, they need a lot of time. It's always a white wine. In Croatia, in Serbia, it's just something about it. It's never red wine. It's always white.
Yeah, it's like counterintuitive actually, because here in the European or rather Western European tradition, Italy, Spain, and France, red wine is what you usually use to cook meat in. White wine would be more fish dishes or just kind of a counterintuitive thing. It's kind of interesting, lack of a better word. So all this has been cooked down. It just smells fantastic. We'll taste it a little bit later because we're going to.
I can't wait. Yeah.
I'm going to make a little Saganaki. So let's move this over to the side right here. So I can show you this. Saganaki is actually a really simple dish as well. We have here Kasari cheese, flour, lemon, chopped parsley, brandy, and water. So what we're going to do is using high heat. I was shocked at how easy this dish was.
You just use regular flour, right?
Regular flour. What we're going to do is we're just going to take a little water, put it on there.
That's a semi-soft cheese.
Yeah, it's sheep and goat cheese actually.
And different versions of the Saganaki are found all over the Greece.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's made with a lot of different cheeses. I'm sure it can be made with halloumi cheese. I'm sure it can be made with all sorts of stuff. So we got here a little flour on each side because we want to form a crust when it hits the pan. So a little Talcott olive oil.
3,000 olive trees in our property here in Canada.
Of course, this is not the olive oil they use in Greece. They're using their own local version.
They're using local, yes. So you want very hot pan, right?
Yes.
And the wines that we chose for pairing today, we don't have a Plavut Smali here or a Liatico, but we have some delicious Bouchaine wines. So we have the Brut Rosé, sparkling, then we have a High Chardonnay, then we have a Pinot Meunier, and a High Vineyard Syrah. And Martin, for how long you're actually frying Saganaki for each side?
2 to 3 minutes on the first go around, and after we flip it, it's going to be maybe 30 seconds on the second side.
Okay, so it's a really quick dish.
Very fast dish.
It's a perfect appetizer.
Very much so. And as you will see in a couple of minutes, a very spectacular appetizer.
Hope you're not bringing any plates, which is a part of the Greek tradition.
You know, the first time I ever worked I used to work at a catering house as a waiter back in the day, and I worked a Greek wedding, and I did the bridegroom's reception for him and his party, and they started dancing around, throwing plates, and we're like shoveling plates at them, and the maitre d', the banquet manager's going crazy because we're costing him money. You know, he's saying it's $1 for each plate they're throwing. You know.
That should be included in the codes for Greek weddings, right?
Yeah, of course. So let's take a look at this. As you can see, it's starting.
It's turning golden. You can smell it too. You're not adding any herbs and spices. So basically cheese and flour and olive oil.
At the end, you're going to add some herbs. You don't want to add anything at this point.
And about the meat that you gave me earlier from South Africa, which spices do they use for that? For the meat that you gave me earlier, which spices do they use? What a little spicy, right?
Excuse me?
The meat you gave me earlier from
It's
South
got a little
Africa?
chili pepper in it.
Chili pepper.
Okay, this is about 3/4 of the way done. See, it's got a nice little golden brown crust on it. I need this part right now. This is the fun part. One that will really impress your guests when you do it.
So what was the most impressive meal you had on your trip?
Oh boy, that's a tough question.
I'm sure you had a lot of them, so difficult to choose one.
The most impressive chef we came across was actually at the River Lodge in the Zambezi River. This guy, one dish he did really impress me was he made a Mexican burrito breakfast. And I doubt this guy did more than 200 miles from where he was born in the middle of Zimbabwe. And yet he captured the flavor and spicy of Mexico. It's very impressive.
And how was the grilled impala?
Grilled impala is delicious. So you see, it's all nice and melted. Put it right there. Now comes the fun part.
And what is it?
Oh, brandy.
Okay.
Opa!
Wow. Very dramatic. Looks great. Just be careful, do it from a distance, right?
Yes, be very careful when you flambe anything. Good point.
But certainly looks great.
Then you're going to add just a little bit of lemon juice. Get lemon in a lot of Greek cooking.
Yes, lemon. That's kind of Mediterranean. Lemon juice, fresh vegetables, olive oil,
And we're going to finish it off with just a
fresh
little
herbs.
bit of parsley. There we go. Saganaki. So today, we traveled the Greek islands in Saganaki. We had a little bit of biltong, which actually I cheated. I bought that on the internet. You buy
Okay,
anything
but
on the
it's from
internet.
South Africa.
From
So
South
we
Africa.
got some flavors from there.
Flavors
And
of South-
then we went to Croatia.
Went to Croatia and had lamb Peka, lamb under the belly.
Great. I got to say cheers to more travels.
Yeah, more
The
travels.
best way to learn about different cuisines, right? Traveling and tasting.
So, Maria, how would you match these dishes?
I think definitely Saganaki with all the richness of the cheese and
Ask me a piece of pita. Let's try a little Saganaki.
I would definitely taste that with a
Thank you.
sparkling wine because our sparkling wine has really nice, crisp, bright acidity, a lot of like citrusy notes, kind of like tart red fruits. I think that would be really nice, kind of contrast pairing. I think the Hyde Chardonnay will go well as well. Hyde, it's a vineyard located here in Carneros. It's definitely premium vineyard of Napa Valley, and it has a very complex aroma, a lot of like citrus notes, kind of mild lemon and minerality. So I think that will go well. That would be more kind of complementary pairing, right? Lamb, if you would like white wine, I think Hyde Chardonnay, since it's a richer wine, will work well. I think Pinot Meunier will be a very interesting pairing, as well as Syrah, kind of lemon Syrah is really classic pairing as well. What do you think?
All right, good. Need a piece of pita.
Oh, it's still sizzling. This is great when cheese is melting. So you tried with the Brut Rosé. I'm going to taste some with the Hyde Vineyard Chardonnay.
Try that next.
It's delicious. You can taste the lemon and the herbs. On the cheese, it's very creamy. And I think it's just perfect pairing, kind of seamless transition with the Hyde Chardonnay.
It's actually one of my favorite Greek dishes.
No, it's great. Okay, so let's taste. We should try Pinot Meunier and Syrah. Maybe you can taste Pinot Meunier and I will taste Syrah with the lamb.
Okay.
Cheers. So we have lamb, the potatoes, eggplant,
Zucchini.
white wine. So you can be really creative and
Pepper.
add your favorite vegetable as well.
And kind of like the zucchini kind of like disappeared. You want me to try Pinot Meunier?
Yes. So Pinot Meunier, one of the 3 grapes used for the champagne production in France. Not often found as in a single varietal, and we do make one in Caneros. I would say it's really light wine, very aromatic, very perfuming, floral, all kind of cherry and strawberry. It's really soft honest. So anytime when in doubt or have some challenging pairings, I think Pinot Meunier really goes well.
That goes really well with it too.
I really enjoy the flavors of the lamb and the texture. It's really nice. That long cooking, cold under the bell as well, or such. That's method. It's very common in the Balkan regions, and it's really
It's almost like going home for you.
Yes, traveling through food and wine. It's always interesting.
So there we have it, a little bit of recap of summer vacation. We're going to take another break. We'll be back in October probably. Dealing with Italian fast food. We have a whole schedule of cooking classes, shows that we're going to be doing. We will post them on the website.
Absolutely.
Last time we were here, we weren't really open. We are now open here at Bouchaine Vineyards. Please come down and visit us if you're in the neighborhood.
Or join us virtually.
Join us virtually.
Thank you so much, and have a great Sunday, and see
Cheers.
you soon again. Cheers.